All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. We have a ton of things to talk about. Not only did your CPI surprise and come in lower today by like a huge margin, we saw a bunch of different things ranging from Nvidia making $50 million in one day. We're going to go over this, and now there is a new type of AI stock. I saw this twice today. It's going to blow your mind, but RXRX, keep your eye out for that. We're going to go over that, but you had a reaction from the Bank of Canada. We have the PPI tomorrow, but honestly, what I'm really tripping about is Japan. If you didn't see the currencies, even the dollar dropped by 1% today. All of the bonds got a bid, and even the Japanese yen, there was talks about policy tweaks. I might have to make a weekend video because there was a lot of Japan stuff this week, but overall it was a very big day. But this is where it gets interesting, because do you see how the market moved? We were really running it in the morning and it was up a decent amount. We actually set a new high on the year, but look at where we closed, 0.83. You guys remember the calculator yesterday? Yeah. Well, the option market was extremely accurate in this case. So we'll react to the PPI data tomorrow. I'll give you a quick rundown of the CPI, but we're going to talk about this Nvidia stuff. I did make a play on it. I think it's going to be a good trade for a little bit, like some of the other AI stocks. And then I have a couple plays for you because earnings kicks off, and we already made an earnings play. So Chad, drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/thestockmarket. It's free 99. We're going to see you. That's it. This is live. This is how it looks. It's a lot of fun. Fun for the whole family. That's today. Isn't that beautiful? So we better see you there. But Chad, let's talk about inflation. I don't know if you're sick of that already, but this is the numbers that came out right here. This is your United States inflation rate. You hit the nice round number of 3%. According to the Fed, I guess you're 1% off the target. They don't use the CPI, but that's a very low number. This rate of change compared to last year's 8.5, this was very welcome. But now today, we were talking about it. Today shouldn't have really surprised if it was going to be to the downside, and actually core had a very big surprise. It came in at 4.83 or 4.8. I don't know why I'm saying 83, but comparing it here to the expectations, it was supposed to come in at 5 after being at 5.3. Maybe that's where the 0.3 came, but this was very welcome, and it dropped even lower than what we were talking about yesterday. I was showing you this chart with all of the lines. This was very welcome for inflation. Now, here's the moral of the story. I'm going to show you the data for tomorrow, but there was movements in bond land. Not only did the whole bond curve get a bid, and that kind of factored into what was going on with the yen and the dollar, but the main thing that happened is the Fed futures and rate hike odds. So even though core surprised to the downside, even though inflation dropped, it led the market to still confirm one more rate hike for July. Why? Because the Fed was saying at the last meeting they're going to give you 2 more. So the market is saying now, all right, we're still going to guarantee 1 even after soft core, but now September, the second hike, that's a toss-up. And then on top of it, you know how we've been talking about rate cuts in 2024 just a couple of weeks ago after GDP and jobs and all of that? What ended up happening, we saw rate cut odds get pushed all the way back to March and even May. But after this data today, now the odds of a rate cut are creeping back into January, and then depending on where it plays out, I mean, it could start to price in rate cuts once again for this year. So that's what we got out of this. The market moved as expected towards the options. There was definitely some action in bond land, and this is probably going to be the narrative between now and Powell and the earnings. It's going to be like, okay, we'll give Powell one more hike. Now the market is questioning the second hike, and the bonds and the bond vigilantes are still pushing back very subtly, not so subtly, on the fact that a rate hike is still borderline, or a rate cut is borderline imminent. So that's the moral of the story. Now, let's talk about how Nvidia made $50 million. Oh, I forgot to go. PPI data. Dang it. I already had it. Please hold. I was just excited because I wanted to go over the filing, but tomorrow the PPI will actually be important. Here are the expectations. And remember, you could use this website, tradingeconomics.com. Even when the data comes out live, it will always update. So very cool site. I've used this over for a very, very long time, but it's all going to be here. But here's the thing about PPI, kind of like what we got today. It could go up even a little bit. It is expected to drop, and pretty decently. If it goes up, unless it's a gigantic run up, it won't be a surprise. If anything, we will get a welcome surprise. But here's the interesting thing about the PPI. That's the month over month. Here's the year over year in the core. Tomorrow expected year over year to come in at 0.4. Core is expected to come in at 2.6, but look at this chart. This is a big drop from 11 down to 1.1. This is PPI, and if you remember earlier this week, this is core PPI. I was showing you the China data, and people were talking about that. So this looks just like China, and they're talking deflation. We're not yet because our numbers aren't negative, whereas China has gone negative. But this data tomorrow, that could be very important. Now, let's go to the filing. So what happened today with Nvidia? The title, Nvidia made $50 million in one day. They actually did. So this filing came out this morning. It was like, I think an hour, 3 minutes after the CPI, legitimately 5:33 a.m. Pacific time. This 8K came out by Recursion Pharmaceuticals, and what they announced was that on July 11th, Recursion entered into a stock purchase agreement for a private placement with Nvidia, pursuant to a July agreement, for an aggregate of 7 million shares. Purchase price is $6.4. Pretty much this company let Nvidia invest in a private placement and said, we will give you $50 million of shares at $6.48 a share. Then they took that, then they're going to go and invest. Now, this is why it's interesting. One, they bought it at $6.48 after announcing it in the morning. I mean, the stock went up instantly. It hit as high as $18. Even at $12, I believe the price is like $12.92 is the exact 100% where they make 50 million, but they're just shy of a $50 million unrealized gain just from the purchase till today. But now this is where it gets crazy. The reason was AI. This is a pharmaceutical stock, so Nvidia is investing in them, and the whole logic here is going to be that they want to have these pharma companies help develop AI. So they're trying to develop pharmaceutical AI. I mean, so you got to read it there. They explain it. The filing goes really, really deep. I saw another company announce something similar. So now, what's the play on this? Is it real? Not? I mean, it's interesting that the company took an investment. Again, it's Nvidia. I mean, even this unrealized gain may show up on their earnings. Shout out to like Ford and Rivian, if you remember that. But overall, it's just a big company investing in this. It's weird that it's biotech, and now that it's AI, it's showing kind of the areas they're branching into. But now, is history has shown, not all the time, like you get a big company investing, it doesn't mean it's like a guaranteed win. So I made a play. I grabbed 100 shares like at 13 bucks, then averaged down at like 10 bucks with another like 200 shares. I have 300 total at like 11.50 average. I am going to try to flip this stock. I think it's going to get hyped back and forth. Could it end up being legit? And Nvidia and Recursion, do they change the future? And does it develop? Yeah, sure, maybe. That'll take some time, but even in the meantime, like these stocks like Sound and Note, there's definitely going to be some hype around it. So I just plan to trade this, but you're getting this new era of AI pharma stocks, which is a crazy blend if you ask me. And then now it's kind of even related to that Nvidia earnings, and it's letting Nvidia actually make money. So that was a very big deal. That was actually the first play, but now let us get into the plays. I actually have 2 more plays I want to go over and what I'm going to be looking at coming into tomorrow. But now play number 2, I brought this one up to you guys yesterday. We were talking YCL and the yen and all of that. Well, pretty much there was a gigantic run up in the last couple days with the yen. Some big things are happening. There was a lot of data. There was people talking about the Japanese macro outlook and society changing in regards to wages and even price hikes. There's even something, again, labor unions and people. The article today, that's what it was. It was an Asian article from the Nikkei just talking about the recent run-up, and it was pretty much furthering the idea of a policy tweak and talking about the Fed stopping and how it could close the gap, and how the data and like Shinto wage hikes, the labor union arguments, and wages going up, as well as now consumers spending more. It was just given this whole case of why maybe they're about to tweak their policy that would lead to a stronger yen. That's why this thing is going up. But relate this now to the bonds and all of that, things are getting very interesting, especially as these rate hike odds are moving. So I think you're going to get a lot of volatility in this play. We're already in it. Our play is running good. I don't think you need to chase it, but what I'm telling you is watch this relationship between the bonds and what you should kind of use the yen as, or the bonds. If you want to get one or the other, you're trying to play the bonds, you're trying to play the yen, just grab the lagger of the two, and that's more so what I want to highlight. But the macro and what is going on with Japan, if it does continue on this, we may start to actually watch this change the trend, and if that happens, we will actually have a bigger play with the yen. So I'm still riding something out. We're going to see how that plays, but that is play number 2, and then finally, play number 3, Pepsi, baby. So I didn't want to play this. I told you I wanted to play like Archer Daniels and any of the food sympathies. But take a look. These guys already reacted today, and I was kind of disappointed about that because there was a lot of food movement. Even like Domino's gapped up 11% on the DoorDash or the Uber Eats deal. So it was kind of disappointing, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to play them. But then towards the end of the day, we went over the preview. I was like, okay, I like the upside. I do still think there's a lot of downside on Pepsi, but I decided to go for the gamble, and I call it a gamble because I bought it today and I will be holding for earnings. So maybe you'll see what happens in the morning. But the reason why I decided to do it is because I was saying it had a lot of risk. I was factoring in like 100 shares. I decided to cut it in half. I went with 50 shares. I'm pretty much expecting it to move like another like $10 if they have bad earnings, and then $10 higher if they have a good earnings. They are outpacing so far on the year compared to the S&P and a lot of other things. That's the reason why. But then again, they ran up a lot earlier than everything. But simply, it doesn't matter what I say now because they're going to report in the morning. That'll create the play. I'm still going to be watching out for the sympathies. Otherwise, if it's not all about Pepsi, I still just think any food type sympathies, any clues from the economy, even stuff we squeeze out of Delta earnings tomorrow morning, that's going to be the key. And then finally, just banks, man. If you didn't see JP Morgan and all of them, shouldn't move too much. It's not like the bank earnings should change a lot, but this is the moment where they could give upside surprises. Otherwise, the earnings shouldn't change too much. Remember, a lot of the banks have been giving more frequent updates since the banking crisis than not, but other than that, that is pretty much everything else. We got a couple of other plays working. I think all I made today, again, I did an MES that I'm holding. We made the Pepsi, the RXRX, the China plays, the Disney pre-earnings, still swinging that and just riding them through. And then now, just waiting for earnings season and then getting ready because it's just piling earnings. That's it, man. It's going to be wild, but that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to remember you are here for a reason. You could have been clapped many, many times over, but you're here. But what does that mean? Does that mean you get hyped up? No, I'm telling you to appreciate it. Appreciate the moment you are living through this generation, whether you are tired of living through history or not. And I know some people are. I'm just telling you, you are here at this nation, in this nation, at this moment, for this time, for a reason. I'm gonna just keep going crazy. So I don't know, maybe you should listen. Just get crazy a little bit. But Chad, get the long-term temper. I keep screaming every time we bring up the long-term. So Chad, I love you. Drink that water. Stay hydrated. Stay healthy. I will see you in the morning. Let's close out the end of the week, and good luck on earnings. And wherever this wraps up at the end of it, man, I'm sure it's gonna be exciting. Let's have a good summer. But that's, oh, whoa, I just punched. I want to see the replay. Okay, I love you, Horn. Not awkward. Hype.